This is an overview of what Easygamer considers a good place to start if you're looking to really build yourself a good gaming PC. What we've done is we spent weeks doing research and basically decided at this point, if we were to build a computer with a mindset of, I want the thing to last, and I want it to last me 5 or 10 years. I don't want to have to change a lot of things 2 or 3 years down the line. Basically, what this good place to start computer is we've gone for the components which are very high quality and very future compatible, and basically a good platform to build on. This basic one doesn't have any external graphics, so it's really a computer designed to be able to play things like Dota and World of Warcraft and more basic games. You can play things like Counter-Strike as well, but as soon as you're going into more hardcore titles, you really need a discrete graphics card. But for most people, they don't like having to spend just as much money on a graphics card as a computer immediately. So something like this will give you a good platform that you can play most games on low settings. Some of the newer titles, unfortunately, it will struggle with, but where we've given it enough headroom to be able to take some seriously powerful graphics cards if you're looking to update later on. So this is the PC. I'm going to give you a quick run through of the parts. Firstly, we absolutely love the Cooler Master Master Case Pro 5. It's a brilliant case. It's probably one of the easiest cases we've had to work on. It's really easy to carry. It looks nice. It's just, for the money, you can't easily beat it. There are cheaper options and there are a few more expensive options. If you're looking to get a computer like this from us and you want to save a bit of money, the case is one area where you could potentially save on. Although from personal experience, these high quality cases, they tend to last forever. The ones I use here, most of them are almost 10 years old and still look in very good condition. So it is something we really recommend, rather investing in a proper case, and then you have it and you don't need to worry about it for a long time. We look at the actual bits which is doing all the work. Starting off with the power supply, we've gone for the Corsair VS550. It's a very neat power supply. We'll show you now when we open up the case here. It creates very neat installs. It's got enough power for most applications. If you're looking to put a overclocking CPU, you might want to look for something larger, or if you're looking for the 140 watt power class CPUs, it's a little on the small side. But the nice thing is with this base setup is you've got a big 12 volt rail. The 12 volt rail is primarily used for graphics cards. So what this means is you can take this base setup, and if you want to add in a top of the range graphics card a year or so down the line, you've got the power to actually be able to run it. Then from a motherboard side, we've gone with Gigabyte's Z170 XP SLI motherboard. The reasoning behind this is, firstly, it's the Gigabyte's ultra durable series. All the owners here have stories of how these things last. I personally have one which has lasted me 10 years, where all the other motherboards from that generation of computers I had are long dead and gone. So they last. And then this specific one, backwards and future compatibility. It's amazing balance between it. You've got incredible connectivity. We'll go through that a little bit later when we look inside the PC here. Then RAM-wise, we've gone for Corsair Vengeance DDR4, the 2400 megahertz. We recommend going for the 16 gig and dual channel. We only use the 8 gig DIMMs in order to leave you room to upgrade later if you want to go to 32 gig. From our tests, there's very few cases where it really is useful to have 32 gig, but sometimes it is nice to have a little bit extra. 8 gig if you choose the 8 gig option, we run it in single channel, so you lose a bit of performance, but specifically with the idea that it's easy to upgrade later on to a nice setup. If you start out with 4 gig DIMMs, you're limited to maximum of 16 gig and very often find yourself wanting to add a little bit more, especially if you start running some different programs. For the CPU, we've gone for the i5-6600, and there's actually quite a good reason behind this. A lot of people look at computers' performance according to whether it's an i5 or an i7, and this is actually really a misconception. To put it in perspective, this is a 65 watt processor. Most laptops come out with an i5 that's 15 watt processor. This one is more than 4 times the performance of that i5, or for that matter, that power bracket's i7 processor. Then you get a step up, you get laptops with a 45 watt processor. They're rare, but typically a lot of the more expensive gaming ones would have the 45 watt processors. But you're still quite a bit down on this i5 version here, and you have quite a big jump in price between the i5 and the i7. The only real main difference in the i5 to the i7 of this generation, if you're looking at the non-K, the non-overclocking processors, is that you get hyperthreading added. Now, for certain things like video editing, hyperthreading is a nice thing to have, because it basically gives the, 2 instruction sets for 1 core. But where a lot of people get mistaken is that they think it's actually a 4-core processor versus 8-core. It's still a 4-core processor, it's just Windows sees 2 channels into the 1 core, which for gaming doesn't really add any value. So there's no point in going for the i7 there, unless you're going for the K processor, which is, instead of the 65 watt, it's a 91 watt processor on the 6700, which gives you a bit more headroom for performance and also for overclocking. But this one, for any of the graphics cards available on the market, it's sufficient performance. So really for future compatibility, it's not much of a issue that it'll be a bottleneck anytime soon. Its single core performance is absolutely great. It actually, on a lot of the more single core focused games, it outperforms my 6-core 4960X. So in terms of value for money, it's a great little processor. So overall, excellent package. Really would recommend upgrading it with a graphics card later, but if this is the budget you have and you're looking for a good place to start and you're not looking to play 2 hectic games initially, this is an excellent place to start. Now if we take a look what's actually going on inside, firstly let me show you how easy it is to get to the inside. It's simply 2 quick release screws, pull it back, whole panel just pops off, and then we have access to a very nice clean build that's inside of this machine. Power supply is put down at the bottom here. It's got its fans sucking air into the case from the bottom. Again, very nice case. Comes with a little air filter which is very quick and easy to remove to prevent dust from getting into the power supply. At the bottom here we've got drive bays. They're quick released. This is, for example, the little toolkit with all the screws and brackets that comes with the case. And removing a hard drive is really just as quick and easy as that. The cabling is very neat in this setup. Everything is very easy to channel through the back. It's got enough places to route everything. On the case itself, you've got 2 hard drive bays down here, another 3 down here, 2 SSD bays here. The SSD bays can also be moved behind the motherboard if you want to use this space for a graphics card down at the bottom. Speaking of a graphics card, if you want to fit a large graphics card, the great thing is this whole hard drive rail can actually be moved around or completely removed to allow you the length for something like a 980 Ti. Anything under something like a 980 Ti normally doesn't require that kind of length and would actually fit just standard in here. The specific build we have here, we're using one 8 gig DIMM of RAM in either RAM slot. We're using the standard CPU cooler. We've done some stress testing on it, and frankly for the CPU, it's on a 14 nanometer architecture. It's so power efficient that the standard CPU cooler does a perfect job of it, and it comes free with the CPU, so it saves quite a bit on extra money. All the important bits on the motherboard are protected by heat sinks, which is a really nice touch. You've got 3 PCI Express 16 slots, which are the ones you typically use for graphics cards. For the most part, no one really uses more than one, and if you go SLI, you might go 2. The board does support SLI and Crossfire if you want to go a little bit crazy on it. It has got 2 of the smaller PCI Express slots for add-on cards. What's a really nice touch is if you have older cards lying around, it actually still has 2 PCI ports for the older expansion cards. If you have a Wi-Fi card or something along those lines which you want to move over to this board. Then in terms of sound, what's really nice is it's got a completely separated area of the board for its sound. It's got a very high quality sound amp in here. Audio quality is really excellent for any audio files out there. It's actually got a little insulated layer that completely separates the board from the rest of the motherboard there, to make sure you don't get any interference from the rest of it. This turbo B clock is for overclocking. It's got a very nice setup. If you want to get into overclocking, it actually allows you smaller steps, so you can really get the maximum out of any CPU. The one we use in this build isn't unlocked, so it's not ideal for overclocking. For that one, you'd want to go for the 700K, but it's quite a price leap, and to be honest, not really worth the extra money for normal gaming use. If we look at the future compatibility here, we've got a 32 gigabits M.2 SSD slot here. The great thing with the 32 gigabit ones is for these tiny board mounted SSDs, you're not limited to the SATA ones, which limit you at about 500 megabytes per second transfer speed. You can get absolutely insanely quick SSDs that fit in here. Again, we don't fit one in a standard because they're very expensive. But if you really want to get a performance boost to the computer, SSD would be the best way to go. Let's go on the hard drives now. We've got a SSHD fitted in here, which is sort of a hybrid between a normal hard drive and a SSD. It gives you not quite SSD speeds, but about a third of the speed of a SSD if you are looking at caged programs, so the ones which you're running very often. It fits it onto a little 8 gig SSD built onto the hard drive, and then those programs run quickly. The nice thing is startup, it's quite quick. The motherboard itself is quite quick on startup. With the SSHD to Windows 10, what we find is it's about 21 seconds to the login screen, which is quite respectable. If you put a SSD in, it'll be a little bit quicker, but you're really already limited at that point by everything the motherboard needs to load. And we do feel a motherboard with everything is a good idea, because at some point you're probably going to want to use 1 or 2 of the functions in here. It has 6 SATA ports, which is nice for if you want to add a bunch of hard drives. The great thing, you'll see they're nice thick and long ones, and you can look at the motherboard's review for more information on this, but these are actually 6 ports that can function as 3 SATA Express ports. SATA Express is basically 2 SATA ports with an extra little one here. At the time of making this video, there's no drives on market yet, but we can't wait to see what this is going to do to the SSD market. It basically takes your peak speed from 6 gigabits to 16. Most of the SSDs you can buy today is limited by the interface, so this should greatly increase the speed that is available. On this one, having used the specific computer quite a while myself now to do testing and that, you do notice it doesn't have an SSD. If you really want to make a computer feel quick, much more than putting a faster processor in, SSD is the thing that really makes the biggest difference there. So if you if it's within your budget, tick that option. You definitely won't regret it. Yes, I think that basically covers everything on the inside. You've got compatibility for old things like external printer ports and these, if you're still using any of those. Most of the fans in the case comes with 3 fans. 2 out of the 3 is controlled by the motherboard, which makes it nice and quiet. This power supply unit is incredibly quiet. Up till 50% load, it actually runs at a point where you really can't hear it. Another thing on the case that's very nice is you have little dust covers that are nice and easy to remove, that you can just take out and wash, and this keeps all the internal components nice and clean. It's really a very handy feature if you're someone that likes showing people your computer, showing the inside. And in terms of fans and the bearings on the fans, it just makes everything last longer if you don't have the whole thing filled up with dust constantly. So that is a really really nice part of this case. And alright, that's basically it on the inside. Very nice setup, very clean setup, very upgradable. You've got plenty of space for anything you might want to add. And the next thing is to move on to the back. On your back I/O panel here, this is one of the main reasons why we love this motherboard, is it's got a ridiculous degree of backwards and forwards compatibility. You've still got a connector for the old keyboards and mouse that use the PS2 connector. You've got your normal DVI port. You've got your old display connection there. You've got a HDMI. This is all for onboard graphics, of course. If you're using a GPU, then you'd use its own ones. You've got 6 audio connectors. You've got LAN. You've got 3 USB-free connectors, and this is the type 8A kind. And then you've got a red one, which everyone might not be familiar with. The red one is USB 3.1. Now, USB 3.1 is double the speed of USB 3. So that's, for future compatibility, that is an amazingly nice thing to have. At this stage, not too many devices using the type A USB 3.1, but they'll definitely be coming. And then this little connector here is a wonderful thing to have. That is a USB Type-C connector. That is basically what's going to replace micro USB. I know some of the Apple products have already started using it. It's like a micro USB connector, except it's reversible, and you can push a lot of power over it, so it's great. Some laptops are even starting to run directly from a USB Type-C connector instead of from a normal separate power connector, and you have the same 10 gigabits per second transfer speed, which will be amazing when we start to see a lot of those devices. To finish off at the front, it's a very neat looking setup. Got a built-in DVD-ROM, got 2 USB 3 ports, got your audio connectivity and your power buttons to move it around. Comes with built-in handles, very nice, simple, easy setup. Basically, at Easygamer, we feel this is the best combination you can get for the money. It's definitely not the cheapest computer you can get. We're actually running ridiculously low margins on the computer here, just because we feel this is the kind of place you need to start if you really want to get into desktop computer gaming. We personally love it. We're computer nuts here, and we really enjoyed ourselves doing all the research and building and doing all the testing on these ones. For your actual gaming performance, you can scroll down a bit and have a look at the video of what you can actually do with the onboard graphics. This should give you an idea of what you get from just buying the PC as it is here. And then obviously there's lots of room for expansion on this one.